Hello everyone. So today we are going to discuss how to create a function in Python. So basically it is very difficult to prepare and maintain a large scale program, and the identification of flow of data subsequently getting harder to understand. The best way is to create a programming application to divide a larger program into smaller subprograms and repeatedly call these subprograms or modules. So with the help of the function, an entire program can be divided into smaller independent modules, and each small independent module is known as function, and basically it improves the code's reusability as well as the flow of execution, as small modules can be managed easily. So we can say that a function is a self-contained block of one or more statements that perform a special task when called. So the function syntax is like this. We need to specify the def keyword. So here you can see a keyword def is used, which indicates the define the function, followed by the function name. So here you can see max. This max is the name of the function. So this is going to be a user defined function name. So you can use identifier rules in order to define a function name. Then we need to specify the arguments which you are going to use in the function. So here we have specified the two arguments a comma b, and these two arguments are known as your formal arguments. Again, inside the function we have specified the documentation comment, which specify the or which helps a user to understand for what purpose the function is going to be used. So for this we have written here that this function basically returns the maximum among a and b. Then the entire statement which we have written inside the function name is what your body of the function, which is with respect to the def keyword, and again it is indented. So what we are doing inside this function, we are taking the two input a and b and we are comparing this two input. So if my a is greater than b, I'm going to return a value a, or we will say that a is the larger, so just return it, or else return b. Now how to call this function? So to call this function, we are going to specify the function name along with the arguments. So as we have defined the function with two arguments, so here during the calling we are going to pass a two values. That is what we have passed 6 comma 4. So here this 6 and 4 are basically the actual argument. So my max function is going to be called with value 6 and 4. Then my max function is going to execute, and once the max function is execute successfully, it is going to return a value either 6 or 4. So as my 6 is greater than 4, it is going to return a 6, and that 6 is finally assigned to a value, a variable x. Now suppose if I write help of max, okay, after executing this, if I write help of max, my function is going to return that help on function max in module is basically used to return the maximum among a and b. So let us discuss some example, so you will get a clear idea how my function actually works. Now suppose I want to write a program, to add numbers 1 to 10, then 20 to 40, and 30 to 60. So here we have specified 3 ranges. So this thing we can do it by means of for loop also. So I'm going to write sum equals to 0. Then I'm going to write for I in range. Now first range is my 1 to 10. So I'm going to write 1 comma 11 comma 1. Then I'm going to simply write sum equals to sum plus I. Then simply I'm going to print sum of numbers from 1 to 10 is comma, simply print the value of sum. This is the code done for my first part. Then I wanted to write for 20 to 40. So again I'm going to write sum equals to 0. Then I'm going to use for I in range 20 comma 41 comma 1. Then again colon. I'm going to write sum equals to sum plus I. Then I'm going to print sum of numbers from 20 to 41 is comma again sum. So my code for 20 to 40 is also done. Now let's write for 30 to 60. So again I'm going to initialize sum equals to 0. Then for I in range 30 to 61 comma again 1. Then again I'm going to write for colon. We'll write sum equals to sum plus I. Then again I'm going to print the final result, that is print sum of numbers from 30 to 41 is comma sum. Now let me run this. So now you can see this. I have written 3 different for loops to perform the addition 1 to 20, 20 to 40 and 30 to 60. So let me run this. We can see sum of numbers from 1 to 10, 55, sum of numbers 20 to 41, 630, and sum of number 30 to 41, 1395. So what we have done here, I have created the program by using 3 different loop statements. Instead of writing 3 different loop statements, I can use function, and we can call this function 3 times for different input. So how I'm going to write a function? I'm going to use a def, then I'm going to write sum x comma y. Okay, so this is going to be my argument x comma y. So x from where I want to print and y up to. Then I'm going to write s equals to 0. Then let me have the for loop here. So for I in range, so my range starts from x and end y plus 1 comma 1. Then semicolon, and here we will perform s equals to s plus I. And finally the end of for loop, and now we will print the sum of numbers from x comma 2 comma y comma is comma s, and then end of this. Now you can see what I have done here. I have defined one function sum x comma y. So x is my first input and y is my second input. So then I have used this x y inside my for loop. So for I in range x comma y plus 1. So my x indicates my starting number and my y plus 1 indicates the ending number, and step size I have used 1. So then we have written s equals to s plus I. So this is going to increment or perform the addition operation on those numbers, and finally at the end of for loop we are going to print the actual result. Now let me run this. So my function is executed successfully. Now I will call this function depending upon my requirement. So suppose first time I want to perform the addition from 1 to 10. So I'm going to call this function sum 1 comma 10. Second, again I'm going to call this sum function, but this time my input is going to 20 comma 40. And third, again I'm going to call this function sum with 30 comma 60. And now let me run this function for this 3 different inputs. So you can see I have got the output 1 to 10 55, 20 to 40 630, and 30 to 60 1395. Same, if you can see this program, 3 different for loops we have written and we have got the same result 55 636. So by using the function, what we have done, we have reduced the length of code. Here we have written only one function and we have called this function multiple times for different input. I hope you have understood what is the use of function and how to define the function. Now let us see some more examples. So we'll see what is the keyword arguments here. Sometimes we specify the functions and we pass the input. So now here, if you can see, I have defined one function print name, which is taking 3 arguments as an input: first, last, and initial. So my first, last, and initial. Then inside that function we have written if initials. So initial is my boolean value, which is basically performing the operation. So if my initial is true, if my condition is true, I am going to print first of 0 plus dot last of 0. So when we have written first of 0, that means we are getting the first character from the string. So 0 is my index value, which is referring to my first character. Okay, if that is false, I am going to print first and last argument value as it is. So for example, you can see my function is called print name with value ACADS comma institute comma false. So you can see I have passed the first argument ACADS. So ACADS will be assigned to my first, institute will be assigned to last, and false will be assigned to initial. So as my initial is false, so if false means condition is false, so in that case we are printing the result as it is, that is ACADS comma institute. We will get the output like this. Second time, suppose I am passing the argument ACADS and institute first and last as it is, but initial we are passing as a true. So when you pass initial as a true, so it is again going to check if initial it is true. So what we are doing, we are extracting the first character from first as well as last argument. That is what A and I. That's why we have got the output as A, I. Third, now here when we are passing, we are specifying the value along with the argument. That means I have written here last equals to institute. comma initial equals to false and first equals to ACATS. So here you can see the order doesn't matter because we have specified the argument along with the value. So when we are specifying the argument with the value, we no need to follow the order. So in this case, as I have passed initial equals to false, I will get the output as ACATS institute. Same way, next time I have specified ACATS. So now here you can see I haven't specified the first argument. So ACATS by default, my compiler understand that ACATS associated with the first. Then we have specified initials equals to true and last equals to institute. So if you are specifying one argument along with the value, then remaining argument also you have to specify with the value. Otherwise, my compiler is not going to understand what is this for. So parameter passing where formal is bound to actual using formal's name. You can mix keyword and non-keyword arguments in during the calling. All non-keyword arguments precede with the keyword arguments in the call. Non-keyword arguments are matched by the position. So in that case, the order is important. And order of keyword argument is not important. Non-keyword argument is there, so order is very much important. But if it is keyword argument, so no need to specify the order. So next we'll discuss the default value. Sometime when we are specifying the parameter, some parameters values we can specify as a default value. Means we are initializing certain value default. So here in this case, we have defined a printf function. First argument, last argument, and initials value, default value is to be false. So if during the calling, if you won't specify initial value, it will take the default value of that argument. For example, here we have called the printname function by passing only two input, ACATS and institute. Third parameter we haven't specified. As we haven't specified third parameter, so third parameter default value will be restored. So here during the execution, as default value is false, so if initials, that is a false, it is going to print the first and second arguments like that only. Second, we have called first, we have assigned the keyword argument first equals to ACATS, last equals to institute, as well as we have specified initial equals to true. So this time, as we are passing the value of the parameters, so it is not going to take the default value. So as per this, we will get the output as a.I. Next time, we have specified last equals to institute, first equals to ACATS, and default value we haven't passed any third argument, so it will take the default value for the third argument. And again you can see here we are specifying bounding the variable with the value, so no need to follow the order over here. And last, we have specified ACATS. So ACATS will be initialized to first argument and last equals to institute, and my default value is going to be, so in that case we will get the output as ACATS institute, as my initial value is false. So in case of a default values, it allow user to call a function with fewer arguments. So when some argument has a fixed value for most of the call, then in that case the default value specifying inside the function definition is very much important. So all arguments with default value must be at the end of argument list, whereas non-default argument cannot follow default argument. I hope you have understood this. Now the globals. So when to use the global and when to use the local. So global allow functions to communicate with each other indirectly, without parameter passing or return values. It is convenient when two similarly far apart functions want to share a data. If there are more than two functions defined, then if they both the functions wanted to communicate with each other, then in that case, by means of this global definition, we can communicate the solution very easily. So if a function has to update a global value, then it must be re-declared the global variable with a global keyword. So let us discuss this. Here we have a variable pi which we have defined as a global whose value is 3.14. Then we have defined one parameter function. That parameter function is printing the parameter 2 into pi into r. Then we have defined one more function area which is defining return pi into r. And finally, we have defined a one update pi function which is basically updating the value of pi. So as we want that the value of pi must be communicated to all remaining functions as well. So we have specified this by means of a global. So the moment you specify the pi function as the global, so the value is communicated to all the functions. So pi equals to 3.14159 we have specified. So define pi to be a float type with value 3.14. Pi can be used across the function. Any change to a pi in update pi will be visible to all to the use of global. So suppose we haven't called the update pi function initially. So my pi value is 3.4. So if I call area function with 100 radius, so I will get the solution as 31400. If I call parameter function with value 10, so I will get 62.800. Now suppose I wanted to update the value of pi and I want that it should be communicated to parameter as well as area function. So we need to call the update pi function here. So we have to call this update pi. So update pi will call the pi value to be updated as 3.14159 instead of 3.14. So now when you call area function with 100 radius, you can see that you are getting a updated value of pi, which is 31415.999. Same way, if you call the parameter function with value 10, you will get 62.832. So this is how we can use the global if you want to perform or you want to communicate certain value to function. I hope you have understood all these things. So let us discuss one small program. You will get clear idea about the function. So suppose I am defining one function def max taking two arguments a and b. Return a, return b. Now I'm defining here max equals to m equals to max. Let us call this function and pass value as a 6, 4. Let us call the function for some different value. So let's pass 3, 8. Again, we are going to print x number is and okay, so let me run this. You can see my function is run. So first time when I called the max function for argument 6 comma 4, I have got the output as max number is 6. And second time when I have called the max function for 3 8, I have got the max number is 8. So this is how we define a function. I hope you have understood, you have cleared all these things. Thank you.